Perfect. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and start with Peter. Go ahead and give an introduction and a little bit about your company.
Great. Nicole, thanks so much for putting this together. Super excited to be here and chat about this. My name's Peter Arlene. I'm the founder and CEO of Mountain Flow Eco Wax. We make eco-friendly and plant-based ski wax and bike lube, and we're based in Carbondale.
Perfect. I'll jump over to Nate.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for taking part in this. We're honored to have taken advantage of this for a couple of years now. It's really opened up some doors for our company, but I'll start. Nate Bradley, I'm general manager at Moot Cycles in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. We've been in business since 1981. We've always been located in what maybe once was a small mountain town, and it seems like it grows day by day. We handcraft titanium bicycle frames. We've got a staff of 26 employees. All of our operations, from sales and marketing to shipping and receiving, and all the manufacturing is all under one roof. So this is a big opportunity for us to get our brand in front of people around the world. So appreciate that.
Great, thank you. And I'll go to Arlo.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Arlo Grammatica with Ska Brewing here in Durango, Colorado. We've been exporting for about 7 or 8 years now. It's been an interesting journey, to say the least. But yeah, it's been really fun. And we sell our beers all over Colorado. Hopefully you guys have all tried one or two over the years. We've been around about 26 years now. So glad to be on the panel. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll go over some stuff.
Thanks, Arlo. And Jenny.
Hi, I'm Jenny Bierling, and I'm the co-founder of Tailwind Nutrition based out of Durango, Colorado. My husband and I started the company in 2012. We manufacture sports nutrition products, and we do all the manufacturing out of Bayfield, Colorado, which is about 15 minutes outside of Durango. And we've been exporting since when we started in 2013. So we're available in close to 35 countries, and exports is a significant part of our business. International accounts for about 20% of our revenue, and our 10-year plan calls for international sales accounting for up to 50% of our overall revenue. So clearly we view it as a huge opportunity. And I'd like to thank Nicole and Oedit for pulling this all together, because it really is a great opportunity for small businesses. And there are a lot of resources at the state level that can help small businesses. So I'm very happy to participate and looking forward to the conversation.
Perfect. Thank you all for the introductions. I think it'd be good to start out to hear about each of your exporting journeys. Why did you start selling into an international market, or what drove that choice? And how did you pick your first markets or market? We'll go ahead. Let's start backwards. I'll start with Jenny.
So we are a bit unique in how we started exporting and continue to export. Companies in our space typically use an established distributor. But in our case, it started with a customer of ours who was so passionate about our product that he reached out to us and contacted us to distribute it in his country, which was Australia. And what we found is that this gave us a number of advantages. First off, our customers and partners, they typically have a built-in network of endurance athletes that align with our grassroots marketing strategy. So they already have this infrastructure in place of endurance athletes that they can start the business with. And then two, these partners are able to continue the personalization and customization that we had started with the Tailwind brand, which a typical distributor would not do. So for example, we write names on our bags and we write a personal note that we ship with every order that ships from our warehouse. And then thirdly, they become vested in our business because they actually own a piece of the business. And because of that, because they're using the product and they own the business itself, they really love Tailwind. They personally use it and can truly advocate for it. So that was the model that we started with, and it's been replicated around the world. There are some markets where we use a traditional distributor. For example, in Canada, we use a traditional distributor, but for the most part, they're actually former customers and continue to be customers who love our product and want to share that within their respective regions.
Great. And Arlo, I'll go to you next.
Yeah, our journey is a little more simple. I was at the Craft Brewers Conference and I essentially stayed out really late with the Swedish guys and asked how we sell beer in their country, and that sort of kicked it off. I sent them samples. I had to go through the process to get selected in their system blogging system, which is very intense. And we actually won a listing, and we've been selling a full container of our IPA there for the last 7 years, and it's quickly become one of our largest markets. Outside of the U.S., it's our largest market, and it's in our top 3 in all of our markets from the U.S. So I guess the long story short is going to the bar can be helpful once in a while. But I sell beer, so that's a different story for everybody else.
Great, thank you. I'll go to Nate.
Yeah, we've had kind of a turbulent exporting journey as well over the past 40 years. I mean, our brand is sought out by enthusiasts. So you get people that are able to travel and live in multiple countries around the world, and they end up becoming, self-promoters for the brand. You see that gaining interest. But we've had great success in different ways. Some distributors work as businesses. Some distributors work as basically a group of enthusiasts, and you get them behind the brand with marketing and material, and where you're working with them to help them sell your product, and that's been successful. South Korea is one of our biggest distributors year over year, and I would say the other advantage we have in the bike industry is that Eurobike takes place in Germany every year, and that really puts us on the map for mainland Europe and then the associated countries around there. So we've seen great success in the past 4 to 5 years in mainland Europe and in the UK, and that's resulted in 38% of our business right now is international. So it's kind of big for us.
Yeah, that's great. And last but not least, Peter.
Yes, we kind of fell into the distribution game. We had somebody reach out of the blue from Finland. They were kind of a friend of a friend and were interested in carrying their product. We didn't really know how it worked. But we established a really good relationship, and they kind of held our hand to get started. And this is the margins. This is what you're responsible for. This is what we're responsible for. And so they really walked us through it, which was super helpful. And so we started there. It went really well, both financially and from a marketing and branding perspective. And it opened our eyes to the opportunities out there. In the ski world, the US is about 10 to 15% of the total market. So there's a much bigger piece of the pie outside of our country. And so now we're actively pursuing new markets, every week.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Peter, that I think the statistic now is about 90% of the purchasing power is outside of the US. So, once you do dominate that domestic market or feel like you've tapped as much of it as you can, really the international market, it's so much bigger than people could ever imagine. Okay, so now I kind of want to get into some of the challenges you faced. Feel free to pick, 1 or 2 specific ones, something more recent. And if the pandemic has affected any of your exporting, good or bad, either increases in sales, obviously we can't travel, but feel free to comment on any of that. We'll start with Peter this time.
Okay, I will try to keep it brief. I could talk about the obstacles for an hour because there are so many. And I think it's really important to go in with a learning mindset because what we've learned is that it's really different in each country. And you could have an established process in one country and you go to the neighboring country and they expect different margins and they have different responsibilities for the distributor or the brand. And, you know, you think, oh, are they ripping us off? Or should we trust them? Like, this is so different than something right next door. And so that's one obstacle, is just learning to adapt. And I think the key to that is finding trusted partners. And just, if this is what they say are the rules in this country, and you trust them and you roll with it, and then you provide them as much support as you can. I mean, I think the other thing is that these things take time. As a founder, I want everything to happen yesterday. I want the purchase order. I want to send you stuff. I want to get moving, you know. But for them, no one's heard of Mountain Flow in Germany. It's not Colorado, and so they need to grow the brand, and they need to do it organically and strategically. And so just kind of taking a breath and letting things unfold. And we've seen that it does grow, and it takes time, but we get there. So trying not to be too pushy, I guess, is another good lesson.
Great. And now I'll shift over to Nate. Well, maybe I lost him for a minute. We'll go ahead to Arlo.
Yeah, I can follow up Peter's sentiment there. It's definitely a lot of obstacles. And for us in the alcohol level, excise taxes are very large obstacles for us. They tax on the level of alcohol in a lot of countries, and every country changes. We were kind of used to some of that. Just every state has their own alcohol laws for us. So it was sort of easier for us to navigate some of that, but you just got to be ready to take on the obstacles as they come, each market. You know, there's shipping and we're doing food products, and I'm sure Jenny's dealt with some ingredients don't fly in some countries, or the EU wants it to fit like this or that. Sorry if I stole your thunder a little bit, but they, you just have to like manage these obstacles. And then at home, I had to manage my crew logistically, the logistics of just managing my team at home when they misdated some cans, and they were like, well, just tell them the date coder broke. And I'm like, well, that doesn't fly in England. They find the distributor and pull it off the shelf. So you have to look at all sides of your business, and those are some of the things I would look at. You know, I look at Sarah with Alpaca. I mean, there could be problems with the materials you use to build your rafts. You have to look into some of those things as you step into those next levels in other countries, you know, and just like watch for those sort of things to pop up.
Great. I think that's a good segue into Jenny.
Yeah, I had to laugh when you were talking about some of the challenges. So certainly international tariffs and customs duties are a big issue for us. So for an example, in Australia, roughly the customs and duties account for roughly half the cost of their invoice. So it's quite a significant impact. So, you know, I think it's interesting that when people talk about tariffs and duties, it works both ways. That, you know, you might think that you're protecting your market, but then there's reciprocation. And so then it ends up harming a lot of businesses who depend upon exports. There was one gentleman who was participating on another panel that I was on, and he's in a distillery business, and there's a 25% tax levied on his goods that were being exported to China, and like overnight his business just evaporated. So that's certainly an issue for us because of dextrose being a primary ingredient in Tailwind Nutrition, which is a carbohydrate or a sugar, and there's this sugar tax that they're now imposing customs and tariffs on. The other thing that is really challenging from a food packaging standpoint is labeling. So the nutrition labeling really varies from country to country, and understanding those nuances and what you have to do in order to comply to those regulations has been very challenging. What we've done is we've shifted that responsibility onto our partners so that we don't have to navigate all of that. And that's been the solution for us. And then, of course, most recently, Brexit has become a fairly large issue. Historically, our partner in the UK would export to the EU, but now there are complications because of Brexit, so he can't get his goods and services into EU in an efficient way. So it's having us totally rethink the way that we do our business within the EU. So, for example, taking advantage of what they call free zones within Netherlands, where you can export your goods into a free zone and the customs and duties are not applied until they reach their final destination. So somebody mentioned to me yesterday that the big part of international, like there's two things I always think of. One is select your partners very carefully. And I think it's really interesting in listening to everyone when they first spoke about how they got into exporting. And it really is based upon those personal relationships that you establish. So really looking at your partner and nurturing those relationships. And then the second thing is work the problem. So you're always going to be encountering problems. So work the problem to come up with a solution, because there is a solution out there, but you just need to work the problem.
Great. And then if I could circle back to Nate.
Yeah, sorry about that. Connection lost. Yeah, so for us, I mean, outside of just the normal logistics of shipping something our size in all these different markets, you know, from one country to the next country, there's different rules and regulations that just changes things on our ends. That's kind of always an uncovered problem. It seems like that's a moving target as well, because we're on the larger end of capacity. But probably the bigger thing would be figuring out how to land a premium product in different markets so that there still is room for distributors and then also the wholesalers after the distributors to make enough money to stand behind your product. VAT, value-added tax, has been a big thing for us over the past couple of years that really raises the premium price point of our product so that by the time it lands to the consumer, they're looking at things a bit differently. You know, now back to the COVID situation and how online shopping has really increased so much over the past year. People are looking to purchase domestically from international markets, and that really kind of undercuts our distribution channels in these different countries. And no matter what you try to do regulation wise, people seem to find ways around it. So trying to make sure that we can keep our distributors fulfilled and entertained with carrying our product, because it is a lot of work for them that they need to be able to profit from that in the end. So that seems like that is a growing change now that online consumerism just is evolving more and more and more each month. So that's probably our hardest thing right now, is to nip that in the butt before it gets too out of hand.
Yeah, that was all great advice. To follow up, some of you have hit on this a little bit. How often are you traveling to foreign markets in a non-COVID time to meet with partners, to go to trade shows? And then a little bit forward thinking, what do you see in the next year for your business in terms of travel, in terms of trade shows? Where are you trying to go? And I'm going to start with Jenny.
So we actually have not done a lot of traveling. A lot of our relationships have been virtual, and which was perfect during COVID. Prior to COVID, we did visit regions that were larger parts of our business. So we went to Europe and met with our partner in the UK, and then he brought in the rest of the partners across the EU. So we had a Middle Mini Summit there. And then in Australia, we planned a trip there. This past year, we had our first international summit, but it was all virtual. And that was great because the partners were able to see faces and put names to faces and such. Ideally, if we grow big enough, we would have an international summit here in Durango, Colorado, and have everybody come here. But we're not, we can't support that right now. So it primarily has been virtual. Zoom is great. Before Zoom, we were using Skype. And then, like I said before, moving forward, I would definitely like to see us participate in more international trade shows so that we continue to grow our international presence. In particular, we had on the docket to go to ISPO before it was canceled. So looking at more shows like that, and I actually jotted down the Eurobike show that you had said was really great for your business. So I'm learning on this panel as well, which is great.
Great. Arlo.
Actually, before COVID, traveled quite a bit. It's kind of more in the beer world. It's a little more essential for you to be there. People want to meet brewery people from your business. They want to see you hanging out, sampling beers. And I've been lucky enough to get on the Department of Ag trips quite a bit as well. So I visited Hong Kong, and I did a panel at the Craft Brewers Conference, and I had somebody give me some money to fly to Abu Dhabi. So I barely got out of there before COVID. But the markets that we exist in, I tried to go at least once a year if I can, or twice a year. And then those trips usually involve me going to Sweden, UK, Norway. We had trips to France planned before all this, before COVID. So for our business, it's a little more important to be there. So you definitely try to travel more. And I hit a lot of trade shows as much as I can. And there's beer festivals and things in countries now that we try to visit. So yeah, the travel's kind of big for the beer guys.
Great. Nate?
On normal year pre-COVID, obviously, we would be looking at probably like 6 to 8 weeks of international travel.
Wow.
Throughout the, we have 4 sales staff, a marketing guy in-house, and that's spread across the 5 of them. Generally speaking, probably 3 international trade shows, big one being Eurobike in the middle of the summer, and then hitting targeted market trade shows. Abu Dhabi, that was a big one last year. We usually hit one in the UK or hit one in Asia every year as well. So I don't know if it'll look the same now going forward. They were big meeting points for us, these trade shows, of being in front of people with our products. To Arlo's point of representing the company, having distributors meet the people that are part of the company, and on more of a genuine level than on a sales pitch level, that always seemed to make that connection and plant that seed. We will continue to travel to trade shows if we see that we are getting big distributor businesses participating, not necessarily just consumer facing. So yeah, the outlook right now, we're going to try to invest heavily in marketing internationally and partnerships on the marketing fronts in key areas to just kind of make sure that our brand stays alive and stays in front of people. And that'll probably be our primary focus for the next 12 to 18 months. And then we'll take it from there and see if we need to hit the ground at that point.
Great. And then Peter?
So we started exporting kind of right before COVID hit, and we had actually a bunch of trips planned, one through a STEP grant to Europe, and everything got canceled. And so we haven't had a chance to meet a lot of our distribution partners. A handful of them were at OR, the last OR that happened, and that was great. But I think our relationships have suffered. It's become kind of transactional because your only communication with them is, here's the deal, here's the terms, here's the margins, and you don't get to have beer with them. You don't get to ride bikes or go skiing. And I feel like so much of this industry is based on that, like not in the boardroom, but outside or at the bar. And the people we work with are great, but we owe them a trip. So it'll stack up here as soon as things open up.
That's great. Thank you, guys. So I'm going to end with one question, and then we can open it up to any questions on the call. So what is one piece of advice or something you wish you had known before starting that would have either made your life easier in terms of exporting? I'll start with Peter this time.
I think the biggest thing is just to know that it's going to be a learning process. And a lot of times you're not the expert, and that's why you're working with these people, and just learn to trust them. I love what Jenny said about working the problem. It's a good way to think about it. And yeah, give a little bit of time, and it's really fun to watch these relationships grow and get the feedback from these countries and see your brand really take off in a place that you've never even been to. But give it time, and be flexible.
Great. Nate?
Yeah, not everything is the same around the world, that's for sure. Like, the same game plan doesn't always work. Cultural differences, communication barriers. I mean, even the simplistic thing of just different time zones and hitting people at different times in their work week. Operations for different parts of the world are just different. So be open-minded, learn as you go, never have the answer, just always ask for help. And yeah, broaden your horizons. That's definitely opened our eyes to a lot of things. And yeah, just each day's a new day, and build those relationships, and that helps build your business down the road.
Okay, Arlo?
Sorry, I was typing. What was the question again? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, yeah. Just one piece of advice or something you'd wish you'd known before starting.
Oh man, I could go on and on about this. Yeah, logistics are a key thing on your end and their end. And then, yeah, just definitely keep an open-minded and just research the country before you go there. Like, I'm always amazed at a lot of people that just, I quickly just do a Wikipedia on a country if I really want to go there and figure out if I want to sell beer there. And I look at, how the economics are going, the money situation, like what the money is, just definitely have a good idea of the country, some of the cultural, you can get over some of the cultural things by just picking up a little research on the way. So, so you don't make some mistakes, because you can make some mistakes that are kind of offensive to people at points if you're not really keen on what's going on. So I would just pick up a travel book or grab a Wikipedia search before you head over to a country, and just that way you got a little bit of a one-up on some stuff.
Great. And Jenny?
So I would definitely agree with everything that everyone else had said. And the other thing I would add is that I wish we had known about all the resources at the state level and the local level that were available to us when we first started out. They have a lot of incredible resources to tap into, from the grant programs that Nicole described, in addition to consulting, and really to know who you need to talk to and connecting you to other people who have had the same experiences. Their main goal really is to help small businesses like ours grow. And just, even today, like I said before, I'm writing down information because it is a learning process. You learn something new every day. So I would encourage everyone to just, reach out, make those connections, tap into the resources that are available, because everyone is here to help everyone succeed. So.
Great, thank you. And I want to do a big thank you before I open it up to general questions for all our panel members today. This has been insightful for me. I know I talked to a lot of companies, but each of you has individual challenges and stories. It makes it all more interesting for me to work with all of you and help future companies as well. So with that, I will open it up to general questions. Feel free to either unmute yourself and ask directly, or you can place it in the chat as well.
I had one question, if you guys don't mind, is how did you find out about the resources through OEdit? Was it, or did you sort of start exporting on your own and then realize there were other programs? Because we really struggle with trying to identify companies that might need resources before they've already jumped in, you know, or they're trying to export.
I actually found out from a guy at my CrossFit gym. He was like, you know, there's a lot of programs, and I kind of agree with that, Jenny. I was like, really? There is? That's how it all started. He put me in touch with Nicole, and I kind of applied. So
Okay.
that's how I got going.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact introduction, but ours was very similar to that of, you know, having kind of competitors and peers in the same market space at domestic trade shows and domestic events. And then, you know, relating to them on the level of how they're able to step it up and go internationally at the budgets that we operate from. And that's where I think the seed was planted. We dug into it more, turned over a few stones, and made the connection that this is something that, you know, the state of Colorado will support and help us get a leg up on what we could handle on our own. So it started from there. It helped us plan more, realizing that something like this was available. That would probably be one of my other tidbits from the last question is, don't let what you've always had as your boundaries stay in place. The state is there that will help you, and that can open up new opportunities. So. I can keep going. I actually have a question for everybody in this sense. Something that we toss around and entertain here and there is that once you establish these relationships internationally and have these partners around the world that are working for your business and representing your business, when do you feel that an employee or an outside rep is needed to service those markets more regularly rather than just keeping everything on the mainland?
For us, we kind of have a dollar value that we put on any rep, even in the States, and even our international markets haven't got up there. I mean, it's expensive to have somebody in an international market, and then they need budgets and all that stuff. So we've just been able to manage it from here for now.
Yeah, ditto. We've explored the idea of hiring someone on a contract basis, but more from a strategic versus sales point of view in terms of what is our international strategy, because it just feels like we have so many balls up in the air and so many different paths to move forward on that we don't really know what the best solution is. We just don't have that expertise. So that's one area where we're looking at potentially hiring someone to help us figure that out. But from a sales standpoint, we handle it all internally at this point.
Not to say I wouldn't be open to a Ska Moots Mountain Flow Tailwind rep. We could all figure that out. The coolest guy in Europe, man.
I'm thinking like some co-marketing opportunities here too.
We kept it in-house so far.
I do have one more thing I should probably bring up, which might be a big deal to everybody. International trademarking, you should get on that sooner than later as a company. You'd hate to find, I mean, we already have had to clip eBay for somebody in China selling Scott t-shirts from way back. And yeah, you would hate to get over to somewhere and then find Moots bicycles already being made. And your trademarks can get hijacked.
Yeah,
And then you enter the country and
we
all of a
have some
sudden-
squatters.
Yeah, you can get hijacked and you have to pay them to get your trademark
We've
back.
experienced it on all fronts in all those cases, and it is a total nightmare. And this is like kind of what ties it together of like having people that work in those markets more regularly, that understand the ins and outs, communicate on those levels, help get through some of these situations. And like, you know, for the answer to my question for us in our current situation is we in the past dedicated one sales rep in-house to just focus on international markets, but this still being the home base. And we've looked at that as if that's the right way to do it or not. And if it were better to have people in their domestic regions to operate that on a commission base. But on the trademarking thing, that could be that's a major time suck. And that is like a major buzzkill when people have your brand's identity as their, and I'm basically holding a ransom for your trademark and trying to get that back from them. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, I think that's that should be a major thing if you're going to look at international, is get your stuff trademarked.
Hey, Nicole, are there grants from OEdit for that kind of IP protection legal work for businesses preparing to get ready to go international?
Yeah, it's something we can look into. Compliance is kind of a very broad category. So let me confirm. I think something like that could apply. And one thing to note, kind of following up on Nate's question, we've seen markets kind of determine whether or not that in-country person needs to exist. So certain markets, you know, if you're going to have a lot of potential returns or things like that, or needs for customer service, certain people in certain markets want you to have that local number, that local representative with a local name that they're going to call at their time zone to have the issues taken care of, versus having to wait until, you know, the US market opens up, or they can figure out how to dial an international number and contact you. So it is driven a lot by the markets as well and their expectations on, you know, you as a foreign company.
Yeah, to add to that point, that's something that we've looked into, is just having an office space in these different areas that kind of mitigates some of the incurred fees, like the value added tax. If we just had a on-site sales representative in, say, mainland Europe, it would change some of our inbound fees for a lot of those distribution channels there. So, you know, it does come at a cost, but at the end, it's kind of fulfilling and servicing those distributors to improve their business.
Great, and I want to open it one more time if there's any additional questions. If not, I'll do a follow-up email, so you'll have our email addresses. I can link you to certain panel members as well if you found that your story kind of matches what they were talking about today and you want to deep dive with them one-on-one after. So please don't feel like this is your last chance. It's just your last chance for right now.
Peter, do you sell your stuff in Durango?
Do we?
Does Peter, do you sell your stuff in Durango? I know I've seen booths everywhere.
Yes, Durango. We're in Durango Sports Exchange, Purgatory Sports, Second Ave Sports, Backcountry Experience, and Pine Needle.
Okay, cool.
Well, I know we're right up to the hour, or right up to the 30-minute point, but I just had a quick question. A lot of the kind of discussions were around like distributors or partners in other countries. And, you know, being Colorado, are you all, and this point probably won't have time, but I'm just wondering around like fulfillment and also growth, probably not as relevant for some of your brands, around, you know, creating a localized website, or, you know, finding that local marketplace to sell. And, you know, how have you addressed that? I'm guessing it's a little bit more of a heavy lift for some, but it also kind of, depending on the market, you can bypass some of the regulations around like maybe food or supplements or different products if you're fulfilling from outside of that local country through a marketplace or things like that?
For us, like I said, we have local partners that we work with. And for food regulations, labeling is still an issue. You reach a certain size and you invite regulatory scrutiny and you'll be reported. So we, for quite a while in the EU, were using our US-based packaging, and they were applying some stickers on it, but ultimately they ended up doing their own packaging. So we have EU-specific packaging that has French, German, and English on it, so they can distribute across all of EU with localized packaging. And as I explained with our business model, because we're partnering with local partners who in and of themselves are entrepreneurs, part of our distribution agreement is that they do need to have their own website, that they are responsible for all the labeling and packaging. So our business model lends itself pretty easily to that versus using a traditional distributor type relationship.
Yeah, we have some of those. Most of our distributors that we use have their own websites and stuff, and then we make UK specific. Well, we make a can that blends UK and Sweden right now because those are some of the largest selling products we have, and we're currently working on a potential mix pack for Costco, maybe in Spain and France and Italy, that will have EU compliant labeling on it. It gets kind of jumbled. Your labeling starts to look like this jumbled mess of stuff, but it's almost what you got to do to get through a lot of these countries without trying to. I mean, we've done it all. I've sat here and stickered cans for 4 hours just to make it fit for somebody, and we have other guys that do that as well. So for us on that level, it's kind of, there's a lot of compliance with, alcohol laws. So it's a little trickier.
The other thing, I'm just going to, sorry, jump in here because you brought something to mind. In Canada, you actually, for food products, you have to be approved by Health Canada, and you have to secure what's called an NPN number, which is you then have to put on your packaging. So there are a lot of, like we talked about before, it does vary from country to country, and you just need to learn it. So.
Can I ask a dumb question from each of you? I'd love to know how many countries you are in, just overall, or if it's just Europe in general. I'm just really curious in terms of locations.
We're currently in 10.
Okay.
Looking at quite a few more. It's just figuring out, it's like everybody says, it takes time and figuring out logistics. And
primarily Europe, is that?
Mostly Europe. I've looked at Asia and stuff, but I'm still trying to figure out the right partner, like everyone says. And that's where you get hijacked the most, trademarking. So I'm still working on a lot of our international stuff, trademarking wise.
Thank you.
We're currently in 36. So we're all around Europe, but then the Middle East, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, Dominican Republic, South America is probably the biggest untapped. South America and Central America past Mexico are the biggest untapped markets for us.
Nice.
For us, we're in about 35 countries, covering every continent. So Europe, Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and we're hoping that's a springboard into the rest of Africa. So pretty much represented everywhere. But a lot of countries still within the continents to move into.
And we're in about 15 markets.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, I know we're running out of time here. So again, I want to thank the panel. This has been great. I really enjoyed hearing everyone's stories. Hopefully you all have found it helpful as well. Since I recorded this, I'll be happy to send anyone who is on today the recording. Feel free to watch it again, share it if you know companies that couldn't make it today, but were interested. And if you have any questions, please feel free to respond to my email when I send it out later today. Thank you.
Great.